And we're live on the Lindsey Beckham Show. Of course, obviously, I'm not Lindsey Beckham. I'm Sean Yurtron. Joining you again twice this week, running solo for Lindsey. She got some school issues today. That's what you got to do when you've got a lot of kids. You got a lot of school events. So I'm happy to cover for her coming in today on this lovely Friday. And I'm sure everybody's ready to end the work week. And we have a really nice day out there too. No rain, and it looks like be about 70 degrees. So got a lot of good topics for all of you guys today. I was on with Clay earlier, and we talked about the Trinidad Chambliss ruling in Lafayette County Chancery Court. Trinidad Chambliss, of course, is the Ole Miss quarterback that took us to the Sugar Bowl victory over Georgia, which I was at that game, and it was quite amazing. And then the Fiesta Bowl against Miami, where we unfortunately came close but lost the game. And he was granted a 6th year, I believe, of eligibility. And he by Lafayette County Chancery Court yesterday in a victory for him and Ole Miss and the entire state of Mississippi. So if you're an Ole Miss fan or just a fan of the state of Mississippi, that's a good thing for all of us. And we look forward to the 2026 season. I'll get into a little bit more of the details about that later. And then I've got several stories. It seems like there's some new crazy breaking news every day in this timeline that we live in. I was prepared to talk about. Yesterday, a report came out in Axios about the Department of Justice and Pam Bondi was spying on Congress people that were viewing the unredacted Epstein files, and I'll get into that. And this morning, I opened up the Wall Street Journal, and the headline on the front page is Kristi Noem fires pilot over missing blanket, and I was like, "What the heck is that about? Like a missing blanket?" Well, apparently, reports are there was a big write-up in the Wall Street Journal this morning about Kristi Noem and this missing blanket, and just a host of other things. And of course, it's a bunch of anonymous sources talking about how much they dislike Miss Noem. And one of the things was that she apparently was taking a flight, and they had to switch planes. And on the new plane, the pilot forgot to bring her like I guess it's like kind of like Linus, if you remember the Charlie Brown comics or cartoons, and I guess she needs her blanket. So he forgot to bring her blanket, and she got her and Corey Lewandowski, who I'm sure if you're familiar with politics, you know who that is. He was Trump's first campaign manager. Got really mad about it, and they fired the guy. And then it looks like they actually ended up hiring him back because they didn't have anybody to fly the plane back. So they needed a pilot. So you don't want to fire the pilot when you need to fly home. So the pilot luckily got his job back, even though he had committed the error of not bringing Miss Noem's blanket to the new plane. So and the article just goes on and discusses kind of things I think that we've all seen about Kristi Noem. She likes to, if you're familiar with the Comic-Con world, cosplay. She's either in a military uniform or a firefighter uniform, or she does these big commercial productions. It's essentially just self-promotion stuff on the taxpayer's dime, and a lot of people in the Trump administration are really mad about it because they believe that her and Lewandowski are using taxpayer money to promote herself and her public image, but this is not really doing the functions of DHS. And her argument with the commercials is that it was that those commercials assist in aiding the immigration enforcement objectives of the administration. That seems to me a very questionable thing. If you've seen these ads, they're for one thing, they're in English. There's no Spanish subtitles or anything. So I don't know if you're a Mexican illegal and speak Spanish. I don't know how you'd understand what's going on in the commercial. And that's like what 70 to 80% of the illegal crossings or illegal immigrants here. So it's her riding around on a horse with a cowboy hat on, and just a promotion of herself. The article goes in, it's a pretty long one. It goes in further. It talks about how her and Lewandowski also wanted a firearm and a badge, but nobody at DHS would give it to them because they had to undergo certain kind of qualifications. And I understand that. I was in the Marine Corps as a military police officer, and then when I became an assistant DA later, that was you can carry as an assistant DA, but you actually have to get qualified. And I used to get mad about that because I was like, well, I was a military cop. Like, do I have to go get qualified? But you do. That's in the Mississippi Code. You have to get qualified, and you can then carry as an assistant DA. That here, I believe with DHS, the way the regulations work, what I'm reading is that you have to undergo some law enforcement training. Well, Miss Noem and Lewandowski didn't want to do that. They just wanted the badge and they just wanted the gun. And then there was another candidate they had that was going to be in charge of that, wanted them to give them the gun and the badge without doing the training, just like the second person. That and this person denies them too, and then they got rid of that person also. So it's just been a complete internal cluster. I'm not going to finish that word, but y'all know what I mean. And they say a lot of it has to do with Corey Lewandowski's influence on Kristi Noem, where the president, of course, is loyal to Lewandowski because he was his first campaign manager. He's been on the Trump train since the beginning, and I get that kind of loyalty. That makes sense. I think most of us would be loyal to somebody that's been with us since the beginning. But he also is the president is upset about the rumors of Kristi Noem and Lewandowski's romantic relationship, which seems like that's been going on for quite a while, and he doesn't seem to appreciate that is a deal. And also, while Lewandowski's serving as her chief of staff, but it went into a whole breakdown of all the things at the agency where there's all this infighting between Noem and other people at DHS for who's going to who's jockeying for the most position of power. It almost sounded like Game of Thrones to me when I was reading it, and I guess that's all politics. Everybody is trying to cut each other's throats. I mean, if you've been around the political world long enough, that's what happens. No one's loyal. No one's really your friend. Everybody just wants power, and I get that's in any dynamic, whether you're in this country, another country, whether it's a parliamentary system. I'm sure it's same in the communist system. That was the way it was in the old Soviet Union. Everybody, human nature, people want power. So Noem and Lewandowski had worked to actually limit the power of Tom Homan. And if y'all know who I'm talking about, Tom Homan is he's the very large bald guy that sounds very gruff. I actually really like him. Like he seems like the kind of guy you'd want to be in some kind of enforcement capacity. And he's very experienced DHS director. I'm not exactly sure what his title is. I think it's borders are or something to that effect. I mean, he's been in career with DHS and throughout several administrations, even with Barack Obama gave him a medal. And I mean, the guy's done a really good job. He's had some controversy recently, obviously, with that. Apparently, there's allegations that he took some cash before President Trump was elected in anticipation that he would for some contracts on the border. The Department of Justice did not do anything with that. So those are just allegations at this point. But Kristi Noem and Lewandowski hate Tom Homan. And I think a lot of that has to do with Tom Homan knows what he's doing and they don't know what they're doing. And so they had employed this strategy in Minnesota that, as we all seen, came out really pretty terribly for the president. And he was blaming Noem and Lewandowski. And that's why Tom Homan took over, because it's like, okay, the adults need to be in the room. Somebody knows how to run this show. Because Noem and Lewandowski were also responsible for Greg Bovino running that operation initially, and you saw how that turned out for the administration politically. And what I had read throughout the course of this article is that Lewandowski and Kristi Noem wanted a lot of videos being taken constantly in Minnesota during this immigration crackdown, and that ended up being turned out disastrous politically, where the president told them stop with the videos because this is making us just look terrible. And they kept on, then they blamed somebody else below them at DHS for the video problem. And then I think they fired that guy. And so the videos eventually stopped, except for the ones, of course, we saw of Alex Preddy. And at the end, after the Alex Preddy shooting, that was, I think the president had enough and said, okay, well, I'm going to go with Tom Homan. And the issue with Homan and Noem, other than the quest for power between all these parties, is that Homan wanted a targeted strategy of immigration, kind of what the president ran on. It was it was focusing on criminals and people with that had overstayed visas and deporting them. Noem, Stephen Miller, and Lewandowski wanted to go after. They actually called it the Home Depot plan. They wanted to go after just the guy that comes over and cuts your grass and builds you a deck, and I mean, just that those kinds of immigrants that are here, never cause any problems, that are just working hard jobs, whether it be on farms, if they're just construction labor, chicken plant. We all know what I'm talking about here. Well, they wanted to attack that strategy, which is proven to be disastrous politically for the administration, because that's not what people thought about when the president was elected. So he saw that. I think he saw all that culminated with what happened in Minnesota, and that's kind of shifted course to Homan running the show. And I think you're going to probably see a focus back on criminal deportations, which I think 80% of the country agrees with that. I don't know who the 20% that don't agree with that are, but that so I think you're going to see that more now, and that Noem and Lewandowski are more in the background. And I do wonder what the president is going to think about this article today in the Wall Street Journal, where it's talking about exposing her dirty laundry. It looks just like she is out of her depth doing this job. Um, she had no experience in any kind of law enforcement capacity, immigration. Not, she was the governor of South Dakota, and she gets put in this role, and it's just been basically a self promotion exercise for her, and a disastrous political experiment for the administration. So I don't know. I don't think the president is going to fire her, because I think that's kind of his view on this is like, if I fire her, then it looks like I made a bad choice, so I can't do that. Kind of like you're seeing with Pam Bondi, where I think across the aisle everybody agrees her testimony was completely disastrous the other day before Congress. I don't know that she's going to get fired either, even though I can't think of anybody more deserving of being fired at this point, and I'll get to some of that story too. But Noem is just consistently made this again an exercise of self promotion. I don't know if it's going to work out the way she thought it was, because now I think the whole country views her as kind of an idiot, and I don't know that's going to help her run for president or whatever else she wants, senator, whatever ever job she wants in the future. All this stuff looks bad. I mean, you got to think about how petty you have to be to fire somebody over a blanket. Like, I mean, you have to be extremely petty. I heard Hillary Clinton was this petty. Some friends of mine that actually worked closely with the Clintons had said that to me, that she was that kind of petty, where she would complain if the Secret Service agents wouldn't bring in the luggage on time, like for whatever they were traveling. Like, she was that. And I guess with Hillary, you can kind of see that she probably would have been. But you just got to be you're just a bad person if you're going to fire somebody over your blanket, didn't get on the plane. And I don't know that that kind of person needs to be in any position of power that would even worry about something like that. I can't imagine what her personal life is. Maybe Mr. Lewandowski could tell us that, having to deal with somebody who would be that angry about an incident like that. And that, of course, has trickled down to the entire department, because the people that work at the department, DHS, are constantly been complaining that her leadership has caused all these internal disputes, and that things are not running as efficiently as they should, because she is again focused on herself, which makes complete sense. With If you just see the commercials, you can see that. If you walk into any airport, you can see her like reading the TSA message. I mean, it's all about her. And I can't imagine she's not thinking that President Trump would have a problem with that, because we all know he likes to make it about himself. So if I was working for him, I would be like, okay, I'm just going to do my job and not try to make it about me. So you have to wonder, at what point does the president stop and say, okay, this is enough. You're making me look bad, and you're all about promoting yourself and not me. And those are things that he does not like to look bad, and he does not like anybody else to try to one up him or grand stage him or anything like that, as we all know. So I don't know. We'll see whether she's on a clock. Her and Miss Bondi might be gone here in the next few months. We'll definitely see that. But if you get a chance, you should check that out. And again, the headline is a blanket and a badge, because Kristi and Corey. Kristi didn't have a blanket, and Corey especially wanted a badge. And he seems like one of those guys that, those guys that were never in law enforcement, they just think having a badge and a gun is cool. If you know what I'm talking about, because there are a lot of guys like that, and they're the guys that are really into shooting but never joined the military, and they always have an excuse like, oh no, I couldn't join the military because of X, Y, and Z. Anyway, I'll get back to that on the next segment of the Lindsey Beckham Show. Stay tuned. Get back to that on the next segment of the Lindsey Beckham Show. Stay tuned.
.1039 WYAB. Americans for Prosperity is Mississippi's and the country's leading grassroots organization dedicated to promoting economic freedom and personal liberty. Americans for Prosperity advocates for limited government, free market policies, and empowering individuals. When given freedom and opportunity, Americans are capable of extraordinary things. If you are ready to make a difference in our community and want to get involved, then visit americansforprosperity.org. Be a part of positive change at americansforprosperity.org. Paid for by Americans for Prosperity.
Pure Air Consultants offers services on your heating and cooling system. It's time to get your heating system serviced. We offer replacement, service, maintenance agreements. It's important because if you have a gas heating system, it can produce carbon monoxide. So you want to make sure you have your system serviced and cleaned to protect your family. You want to make sure your system is safe to run. You can find us on our website at mypureairconsultants.com, mypureairconsultants.com.
Get ready, Louisiana! Johnny's Pizza House is turning up the heat with our sweet the swamp pizza. Packed with crawfish, shrimp, a taste of crab, andouille sausage, bell peppers, onions, jalapenos, and a blend of Cajun spices, all smothered in delicious mozzarella cheese. It's the perfect bite of the bayou and the perfect meal for any Cajun crave. Try our Cajun flip or dive into a sweet the swamp pizza bowl. A taste of Louisiana flavor is waiting on you. Let's share a slice today at Johnny's Pizza House.
This Valentine's, guys, it's one stop and you're done. I'm John.
And I'm Corey Ravenstein.
At Juniker Jewelry Company, we have thousands of ways to say I love you without you having to say a word.
We are Mississippi's largest fine jeweler with case after case of rings, pendants, earrings, colored gemstone pieces, all at the lowest prices in the state.
Diamond studs from just $195.
Juniker sterling silver pieces start at under $250.
And our signature colored gemstone pendants starting at just $275.
Diamond pendants for under $995 and diamond tennis bracelets for under $2,000.
Maybe it's time for that diamond. Juniker Jewelry Company is Mississippi's direct diamond importer with more loose diamonds and settings than any store in the state.
Guys, it's one-stop shopping and you're done.
This year, this Valentine's, come to Juniker's.
Your one-stop Valentine's store.
Juniker Jewelry Company, 1485 Highland Colony Parkway in Madison, and junikerjewelry.com, Mississippi's direct diamond importer.
We would like to invite you to visit our retirement community, which is not only beautiful, but affordable as well. I'm Rhonda Brown, director at the Waterford on Highland Colony in Ridgeland. Our enhanced dining services include 3 delicious daily meals served in our beautiful open dining room. In addition, we're pet friendly and we're so excited about our brand new dog park. Call us at the Waterford on Highland Colony in Ridgeland, 601-856-6131.
This Valentine's Day, be the hero without the hassle. At Green Oak, we're the Valentine's Day experts. We know exactly what she wants, and we make it easy for you to get it right. Choose from stunning hand-designed floral arrangements and gifts online at greenoakms.com or visit us in-store in Jackson next to Palm Bridges Park or in Ridgeland at the Township. Green Oak does all the work. You get all the credit. Order now at greenoakms.com and make this Valentine's Day unforgettable. Green Oak, Jackson's floral expert since 1960.
The Township Jazz Festival is on again this year, so make your plans for Saturday, April 11th to bring the family and make a day of it. This year, as always, they're keeping it free. 8 hours of phenomenal jazz talent at the Township on Highland Colony Parkway near Fusion Coffee House. Covered seating is provided, but lawn chairs and blankets are welcome. No tents, please. You can look for the info at townshipjazzfestival.com.
And we're back on the Lindsey Beckham Show. I am Sean Yurtkron, filling in for Lindsey while she's going to, I think, a school Valentine's Day parties today. So that is a really important event for kids, I guess. I don't know. Kids seem to have all these events nowadays that we didn't have when we were younger. Though I do remember having the Valentine's Day stuff when I was like in the 1980s as an elementary. You had to give like cards out to each other, which I imagine probably is banned now because like if somebody doesn't get a Valentine's Day card from another student, then they'll like feel bad about themselves. And I mean, it seems like all that stuff from the 80s is probably ancient history at this point. But anyway, so good luck to Lindsey. I hope she's having a lot of fun. And I'm here, and I hope you guys don't want to don't want to kill me yet because this is a conservative station and I obviously am bent to the left, which probably makes you want to throw something at your radio. And we were talking about Kristi Noem and firing a pilot for her blanket that was not taken to a new flight. She was really mad about a blanket, and she went to the plane. They had to switch planes, and the pilot apparently forgot to bring her Lucky Linus blanket, and she fired him over it, and then hired him back when she realized that she didn't have a pilot to fly the plane back home. I guess she didn't want to cosplay as a pilot. So that was, or maybe she realized that cosplaying as a pilot doesn't necessarily mean that you can fly a plane. But that is in the Wall Street Journal. It's on the cover of the front page today, talking about her and the relationship between her and Corey Lewandowski and how they basically caused a very toxic environment at the department, the DHS. So check that out when you can. There is another thing going on regarding the Department of Justice. We're talking about another governmental department, the Department of Justice. And what came out yesterday in Axios was whether the Department of Justice is spying on Congress. And what I mean is this: apparently that Pam Bondi walked into that hearing in the House the other day when she was getting questioned, where she was she had what's called a burn book. I think they were calling it, like a burn book of, I don't know, it's cheat sheet, dummies guide, whatever you want to call it. And she was reading through it, and one of the pages of it had, like, I think her name is Congresswoman Pramila Jayapal. And I think she's I'm pretty sure she's a Democratic Congresswoman, and it had like her search history on the picture. And so Bondi's photographed with this, where, saying that it showed that they had a record of what unredacted Epstein files Jayapal had searched. And apparently they had this for every congressperson, whether you were a Republican or Democrat, that went in there and looked at the file, the unredacted files that, of course, that we haven't seen yet. And so they kept a record of all of this stuff, so much so that this is one of the few bipartisan things you'll see up there, where even Mike Johnson got mad at her because it's like, you can't spy on members of Congress while they're searching the files. I mean, and especially when they're doing what's called oversight. It's like they're supposed to be, kind of investigating you. And so that was that was a big thing that came out yesterday, and it's causing a lot of stink on Capitol Hill. And I mean, it fits into this whole Epstein thing. It just makes the scandal seem even worse, and you can't trust anybody. And that's kind of where I've come with it. I think I might have explained this last time I was on. Initially in 2019, I mean, I knew the guy was a sex trafficker and all that. I didn't know that I didn't believe in all the conspiracy theories, because I'm just generally not prone to that. Now, from now on, I will be. I promise I will be prone to believe in conspiracy theories. I think the people on the right back then were correct about this. I said this morning on Clay's show. The only thing I think most of them kind of put it on Hillary Clinton, which, that's a bit tongue in cheek, but she may be involved, but it definitely was again, another bipartisan thing here. And that's the one thing I've kind of learned from this, that these political lines that we have really mean nothing. It's kind of like just another distraction. It's the elite that are controlling everything, that are making all the money, that are sex trafficking children, and they're all in cahoots together. I think that's what a lot of this whole thing kind of shows us there, that this, you got Bill Clinton, Donald Trump hanging out, and, they're supposed to be like, what, mortal enemies? I don't know that we see that. I think they're all the most powerful people in the world. And this thing just did not even extend to it extended to the entire world, not just the United States, and extended to the entire world's elite people there. And there's so many, like I was reading about, obviously there's the English ambassador to the United States, Mandelson. He was just fired. Keith Starmer, who's the prime minister for England, they say he's resigning next week over this Epstein scandal. The prime minister of England. It has gotten so bad, y'all, that King Charles is concerned that the monarchy may be brought down, because, as we all know, the prince formerly known as Andrew, or Andrew formerly known as Prince Andrew, whichever way you want to put that, was involved deeply with Epstein and young girls. And now it came out in the new dumps that he was giving up British secrets to Epstein, probably for more access to young girls. So the monarchy now is under fire because of that, because the monarchy obviously is a symbolic traditionalist thing in England, and it's funded by the taxpayers, and there's also royal property that funds it. But the taxpayers are like, the English citizens are like, wait a second, you guys are a bunch of sex traffickers that are giving up our state secrets. Like, what's up with that? So I mean, heads are rolling. If you ever go look at the BBC, they're taking it more serious than we are here. They're tearing folks up there. I mean, you're going to see the dismantling of the whole government there shortly. And I think for King Charles and Windsor's sake, they better keep praying, because the monarchy might get just taken down in smithereens because of this, because that's how mad the people are over there about that. So this thing, I mean, and then it went to, you got businessmen from Dubai. You've got the lady, a lawyer from Goldman Sachs who worked for Obama. She got taken down today. She resigned today. I was reading also, Mick Jagger is another one that's possibly involved. Mick Jagger, Rolling Stones, he's involved in this, possibly. I mean, where does this end? Like, it was just a gigantic sex trafficking ring of super rich people. And I said this last show, and I said a little bit this morning, and they're all laughing at us because they send us all these distractions that we're supposed to, we're the peasants, basically. I mean, we're the peasants. That's what they think. We're the peasants, and we act like it because of the things that we get distracted by. And this is not a partisan thing that I'm saying here. This is like on the right and the left. I'll give you an example. Bad Bunny. That caused, and now what, today's Friday, and barely anybody probably remembers why they were so upset. But you got the whole public, half the public focused on how much they hate him, and the other half is fighting against hating him. And they're all focused on who's going to perform at the freaking halftime show at the Super Bowl. And then you got, on the left, you got them making complaints about, a hot girl wearing jeans and like an American Eagle commercial, that Sydney Sweeney thing. Or that Jason Aldean is racist because he did a country music video in front of a courthouse in the South. And later they said, oh, well, there was like a lynching at the courthouse in the South. Yeah, what courthouse in the South wasn't there probably a lynching at? I'm sure there was. History's rough. I mean, that's just a fact of life. It doesn't make Jason Aldean a racist. But the left gets focused on that. The right gets focused on a transgender person in a Bud Light ad. This is where we are, y'all. Like, we're focused on that kind of stupid crap, while these folks that run the entire world are making tons of money. They own all the property. They are sex trafficking kids. And when you look at what your insurance premium is and how much it's going up. Look at that. Look at if you're in that age group right now, or maybe you're even older, that's trying to buy a home for the first time. How difficult is that? But they want you to focus on Bad Bunny, or they want you to focus on Sydney Sweeney or the transgender Bud Light thing. That's how stupid they think we are. And you know what? Sometimes they're right, because we fall for it. That's what we do. We get ourselves caught up in this kind of crap, and we're all throwing rocks at each other. Oh, the liberal communists, or the Trump supporting Nazi. Like, I hate them. I mean, I can't believe that guy is supporting drinking a Bud Light. I mean, how stupid are we? And I think if this scandal doesn't show you that, nothing will. Like, this should take the wool off your eyes right now, because this is what they're doing. They're all in cahoots together, and they're running the entire world and making tons of money off of your back, and you can't even go get affordable health insurance. I was reading about James Vanderbeek, who was on Dawson's Creek, and a movie I love, and a lot of guys my age love, I'm sure, Varsity Blues, had colon cancer, died of colon cancer, 48 years old, very young. That's happening more and more. That's another issue, our food supply. Why is this happening so much now? He couldn't afford his cancer treatment. This is a guy that was a famous Hollywood actor, because you know what? The insurance companies didn't cover all the treatments. I read through all that earlier this morning. So we can't even get insurance. And a guy that was a famous actor that everybody knows who they are can't get proper insurance to cover his colon cancer to save his life. I think he had like 6 children. And that's not even doable in this country. But we're focusing on who plays at the halftime show. And that's exactly what they want. That's exactly what they want us to do. They want us to focus on that kind of stuff and forget about that, somebody under 50 died of colon cancer, or you're paying $2,000 a month in premiums if you're self-employed for a family of 4. This is, and then that insurance policy isn't even going to cover you when you get colon cancer. But they're going to tell you to hate socialized medicine. That's just not the free market. Okay, cool. What's the free market? What's it going to do for me? Apparently it's not going to cover my colon cancer. It's not going to do that. So I'm going to be dead. This is the things we need to think about. And I think we're better off on the left and right actually joining forces and realize it's us against them. I will be back on the next segment of the Lindsey Beckham Show. Stay tuned. And I'm back here, or we're back on the Lindsey Beckham Show. I guess I'm back because I'm the only one here. Lindsey is at a school Valentine's party, and I'm Sean Yurtkron of the Yurtkron Law Firm covering for her. If you go out this weekend, speaking of my law firm, and you decide to have too many drinks and you don't call an Uber, you can call me at 601-862-1320 or reach me at onetextlaw.com. I do a lot of DUI work around here. I do a lot of serious criminal defense too, like murder cases, aggravated assaults, and federal. I'm in federal court now quite a bit. So you can give me a call, 601-862-1320, or reach me at onetextlaw.com. And if you get pulled over this weekend, this is not advice because I don't think I'm supposed to give legal advice on the air. This is just a general statement. When the cops pull you over and they ask you how many drinks you had, I'm just going to say that 99.9% of the time I've seen people say they had 2 drinks. I don't know if that's like an urban legend kind of thing, like just say you have 2 drinks, or that's just what we used to tell our parents, or we tell our spouses when we sneak out to the bar and come home. Like, I had 2 drinks only. I only had 2 drinks. That's it. 2 drinks. It's always 2. I've been to the bar a million times in my life. I'll be honest. I'm not going to lie. I've never just had 2 drinks at the bar. It's been at least 5. So the cops know that, and they know you're lying. So when they know you're lying and you say, hey, I had 2 drinks. They're like, okay, well, you had a couple of drinks and you smell like alcohol. That gives me the probable cause. Blah, blah, blah. You're arrested. So just remember that. Stay away from the 2. That doesn't mean I said say what you had 1 drink. I mean, just, don't answer a question. That'd probably be a good idea. Not advice, just a general statement. But trying to help you out free. There you go. Anyway, we're back here talking about a load of different things. Kristi Noem and her blanket, DOJ and Pam Bondi spying on all of Congress, and how the elite are treating us as peasant idiots, which is what they think we are, and sometimes we do act like it, unfortunately. The last segment I was talking about James Van Der Beek, who was one of the stars of Dawson's Creek back in the late 1990s, as well as the hit movie Varsity Blues. He played Jonathan Moxon. The Mox, you guys, I know you guys are in your 40s. You know exactly what I'm talking about. Clay bought a signed Mox jersey like a few months ago. That's how much we all know we're into that kind of stuff. And that's thinking about that. He texted me a few months ago and told me, man, I bought a signed Mox jersey from James Van Der Beek because he's trying to raise money for his cancer, to pay for his cancer, because his insurance, of course, was not paying for it all. And I said, man, that's awesome. I meant to go get one too. And I was thinking, that's so funny. Like, Clay is so conservative, so big Trump. I'm anti-Trump on the left, and we're both like, man, we love that movie. And that's the whole thing about our society. We all actually like the same things for the most part, but the elites have convinced us that we don't, and that we hate each other, and that we should get mad about Bad Bunny. And that's kind of, that's where I was going with the last segment. It's when you break it down like that, it's so simple. And here I've got, some just straight numbers for you on health insurance, talking about Van Der Beek. While we're focusing on what Cracker Barrel's logo change, the average American family right now pays $26,000 a year in health insurance premiums. That's $2,250 a month. It's family of 4. 26,000. Well, it's actually 26,993. Now that, of course, is an employer-sponsored plan. So you got to be employed with somebody who's sponsoring, and so you pay a little less. If you go on a marketplace, or you're just a small business person like myself, like many others, Mississippians especially, we got an entrepreneurial spirit in this state, and I think that's a great thing. So you're paying an average of about $22,000 a year for that. And then that's not all. Those are just the premiums you're paying. You got a deductible, whether you get the $1,000 deductible, the $5,000 deductible, whatever it is. You got co-pays, co-insurance, out-of-pocket maximum. Sometimes I get so confused, and heck, I'm a lawyer, and I'm like, shouldn't I know how to read all this stuff? They're like, oh, that's the out-of-pocket whatever. They write it deliberately, so you're just paying more and more, and it's getting more confusing to you when you read it. And then there are the exclusions, what they don't cover, like United Healthcare. And we saw when the healthcare CEO, the United Healthcare CEO, was killed by Louis Mangione last year. And I saw a lot of, obviously, I think it's horrible. Nobody should be assassinated on the streets of New York or anywhere. But, there were people out there trying to virtue signal, saying, I can't believe people are happy about this. It's not that they're happy that somebody died or got killed. That's not it. It's more like I think they didn't feel any sympathy. And the reason they don't is because of this. because of a guy like Vanderbeek, who's got 6 kids, who was an actor and had some money, and he can't even afford colon cancer, which is something so many of us have, had family members or friends afflicted with. My mother just passed away last fall of esophageal cancer. I mean, we've all been attacked by the evil that cancer is. Your family or someone it hits all of us at home. And the insurance companies are like, nah, we're not going to pay for all of it. So what the Vanderbeek family did, they had to do like a GoFundMe. His whole family emptied their savings. Of course, who wouldn't for their, their brother, their sister, their mom, or their dad trying to save them? Of course they're going to do that. And they're broke because the insurance company would not cover everything. And that's what we get. And then what they do is they say, well, let's turn this into a right versus left argument. And let's make it seem like the left are a bunch of commies for wanting socialized medicine. They're bad. They want, the insurance companies, the government to pay for that. You're paid out of your taxes and them to cover everything. Bad, bad, bad. And then they'll say, oh, the free market is the best. Well, this is the free market you got right here, where a guy that's supposed to have money and is a famous actor who pays his insurance for an insurance policy, his stuff wasn't even covered, and he goes bankrupt and he dies. What do you think is going to happen to you? And that's what's going to happen. You're going to die. You're going to go bankrupt, and your family's going to be bankrupt because we're not focusing on this issue. We're focusing on Cracker Barrel or Bud Light. And that is a giant problem in this country until we figure out why we are so easily distracted on things that will never impact our families, ourselves, how much money we make, how successful we are. These things never will. They are blips in time, but they've got you so consumed with it and so consumed on hating the other side that they're going to continue to make way more money off you. And you're going to continue to die of cancer and go bankrupt. And look at your social media feed at one point, and you'll see so many people. I see it. I got so many friends on the right and left, and they'll make some, somebody on the right will make some comment about Democrats. The Democrats are evil and they're doing all this stuff. And I always wonder why people do that. Like, do they think that like a guy who's a Democrat's going to read that and be like, you know what? Bob from high school said I'm an idiot communist. Yeah, I think I've changed now. I'm a Republican now. And vice versa. When the Democrats do it and they're saying, oh, those Nazis are going to line you up and put you in a concentration camp. I mean, what is wrong with those evil conservatives? I mean, I don't think somebody that's conservative reads that and says, man, geez, he's like, do you see what Rick from high school said? He said that I'm a Nazi. Now I'm going with Rick because obviously he knows a way to persuade me into believing like he does because he's so empathetic and compassionate and really feels what my needs are. But that's what they do. They've made us into that. They made us into like making these crazy statements, all these political platitudes, attacking each other. And what do we get? You get to be full on a whole lot of right, or the perception that you're right, but you don't get lower health insurance costs. You still can't buy that house. Can't do that. But maybe you were right about who should have played at the Super Bowl halftime. But you have family members that are still very much bankrupt and very much not alive anymore because we're not focusing on this at all. And even if you don't want a single payer system, which is fine, if you have a different philosophy of that, what we're doing now is not working. It is not working. And that's why you saw so many people celebrating when the CEO was shot, which was obviously terrible to celebrate that, but that's why they did. Because if people were satisfied with their healthcare, that wouldn't happen. What happened to Vanderbeek? Now, I'm not saying he wouldn't have died. He might have still died, but his family would not be bankrupt right now if that's something that we actually focused on. But we don't focus on that. So, like, obviously, this is an issue that impacts every single American. And, I was watching the Mississippi legislature right now. They're fighting over where we're going to have prayer in schools. I mean, can we focus on, don't you think Jesus would care if we're actually trying to help one another more than whether you're going to have prayer in schools? But you know why they're doing that? Because they're virtue signaling to you. It is all a distraction. They're not going to work on your healthcare, but they're going to go out there and campaign and say, guess what? I love Jesus 27% more than my opponent. I love him. I hate gays and I love guns. Vote for me. And what are you going to get from that? Again, just a bunch of political platitudes. You're going to feel better on Saturday night that you own the libs, but your healthcare is still going to suck. That's why it is time for us to stop. This Epstein scandal should show all of us that they are taking us for a ride. And they're bamboozling the liberals just as much as the conservatives. It's all the same. I mean, it's all the same. I think they've just basically invented these sides for their own benefit. I mean, this is something that I hope, I'd actually, obviously I never voted for President Trump, but I did think he would have been the kind of person that would have shaken up the system in a good direction for that. But he's not done that. I mean, he said he's had concepts of a plan. He's not pushing. He's saying, like, I'm going to do, Trump care or some kind of prescription. When are we going to get that? Now, if he does that, I'm telling you what, I'm going to be a fan. I mean, he keeps on saying it. This is his second term. We're over a year into that, and that's not happened. Somebody has got to do something about this. But my prediction is nobody will. And the next little stupid controversy of, who's going to sing the national anthem at the opening day of baseball in a few months, whoever, I mean, I'm just making that up, but it's going to be something that ridiculous, or what kind of, which two dinosaurs would win in a fight. They're going to distract us with that. Or, don't the liberals, like, are celebrating Pride Month too much? Something like that, that's going to have no impact on your life. Anyway, I will be back on the next segment of the Lindsey Beckham Show. Y'all stay tuned. And we're back on the Lindsey Beckham Show here for the last segment. I think I've spent the whole hour complaining about how we all don't pay attention to what matters, and I'm going to stand by that. Healthcare is just one of many examples that you can use here. I think affordable housing is going to be, or is one of the as a giant issue and a problem that people can't achieve what was once thought of as the American dream anymore. And because of the home prices and how expensive they are, right? And the average age of home ownership is 40 years old. 40 years old. In 1950, it was 30 years old. So we've regressed in the last 76 years in terms of what our affordability of owning a home, which is what pretty much every American dreams of doing, just owning their own home. And we can't even do that anymore. But we are told to focus on all these culture war issues that makes everybody outraged for a few minutes and accomplishes absolutely zero. And that is really sad. And I hope one day we'll get past. I think social media is a big problem, part of that. I don't know that it was quite this prolific in the past because you just didn't have the access to the information and the outrage as quickly as you do now. You'd have to pick up the paper or listen to the radio right now. I'm sure people get outraged what I'm saying. And I know they get outraged by the radio strongman who's texting me right now, thinking the insurance system is fine. I'll remember that, Kim, next time you're in the hospital, but I will send you flowers. I think I did last time you were, actually. I think I did. So I just wish that we could all come together for one thing and realize that the politicians are using political platitudes and making a joke of us. Again, look at what the legislature right now is like. Let's go try to do a school prayer bill, but they don't care about how to mess with your health care. They don't care about that, but they're like, we got this, everybody pray. I mean, well, if you really, really believed in what things Jesus said, maybe you'd focus on what's going to help the people. But that's never going to happen because that doesn't sell. I mean, it doesn't sell. And it also it hurts business interests, and people don't want to do that. So they'll keep telling you these things like they're the most pro-life or they're the most anti-gay or they hate transgender people the most, while you're still in the same situation that you've always been, and nothing has gotten better for you or your family. And I'm not just putting that on conservatives. Democrats do the same dang thing. They play the same game on just a different way. It's the same thing. But until we as a people say we've had enough of it, they're going to continue doing it. And this is not something that has changed throughout history. I mean, in the 1950s and the 60s, Southern governors used to say it was all black people's fault. All your problems were because of black people. Now it's the Mexicans, are taking your jobs. I don't know. I don't know how many people's jobs have been taken by Mexicans, but that's something they want to sell you. It's their fault. It's never like we're elected to solve problems, and we're not going to do that because we're bought and paid for. And we're going to distract you with all these other things that have nothing to do with the main issues. And that is what is better for you and your family in this country. And I hope you all have a great weekend. Lindsey will be back on Monday, which is President's Day. I'm sure she'll get all into that. Anyway, I'll see you later. Bye.